My dad actually left when I was about 5 years old. So essentially, I grew up without one. And the last thing I want to do is leave my children. So it's one of those, your why is extremely important. You got to be purpose driven, right? Just like you said, if all you're in this for is the money, if all you're chasing is money, it's going to keep running, right? But when you're fulfilling a sense of purpose, it takes you that much further.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the 1% Podcast. I'm your host, Vin, and
I'm Shane.
And today, Shane has brought on our man, Junior, who loves pizza just as much as I do. But Shane, I'm going to let you go ahead and do this great intro because this is your friend today.
So, Junior, what doesn't he do is probably the best way of putting this here. I know he has a history of businesses, from construction to metals to timepieces, which is watches, to car rebuilding, to insurance, life planning. Junior is the man with the plan, the guy you got to know. So yeah, Junior, thank you so much for coming on with us today. It's a pleasure having you.
Yeah, man, I appreciate y'all having me. It's nice to be here.
I love this, man. Junior, in the Italian community, when people say they know a guy, they're probably talking about Junior.
That's absolutely true. When it comes to metals, I'll even send Junior like screenshots. Everybody asks me, where do you buy your metals from? And I'll take a screenshot, be like, this is the guy, Paramount. You need to follow him and ask him.
Yeah, it's very much appreciated, man. Thank you.
So my first question is, how did you even get into to metals and into watches? How did you get into it?
It's a funny story, man. So with regards to watches, like you said, I was previously in the construction world. So this was about maybe 8 years ago. I did a building for one of my good friends in the Bay Area. And he was a jeweler. And after I'd go in and check on my guys every single day, I walked into that store and I always eyeballed the president, right? So I was looking at the date. He knew it's one of my dream watches. I could never afford it at the time. And he said, "You like this watch?" Of course I like the watch. It's gold, right? I'm Italian. And put it on, started doing one of these things. And he goes, "I'll sell it to you." I said, "No, I can't afford it right now. I'm in the middle of building my construction business." So at the end of it, when we finished it, he told me to come inside and he gifted it to me, basically. He said, "Hey, man, thank you for all the hard work. I'll gift you half of this," is what the deal was. I said, "Man, I appreciate that." So I paid, at that time, $6,000 for it. And it was a $12,000 watch. And what got me into flipping watches was 6 months later, I was at the mall and somebody literally bought it off my wrist for $18,000. So right then and there, I told him about it. Everything was all good. He said, "Welcome to the game." And 2018, Paramount Timepieces was born.
I love it. And then the metals aspect, did that just kind of follow too, or did you actually invest previously into that?
I was always into gold and silver, naturally, right? It's just a good storage of wealth. And during COVID time, 2020, I had my twins. I had them 2 weeks before the shutdown. And in California, this is where I was living at the time, the shutdown was 3 months long. So during the shutdown, I almost lost my business a couple times, the construction company, due to I had to keep paying the bills. I had to pay the shop rent, I had to pay the materials, the guys, we had to keep them on payroll because, their livelihood was dependent on me. So literally sucked all the money out of the company because of COVID. So during that time on Instagram, I came across these silver raffles, right? During the hype of it all. And, I had a little epiphany. I said, you know what? Maybe I can start flipping and doing something on Instagram. Sure enough, one thing led to another. And within 12 months, it was $1 million business on Instagram. And from there, ever since, we've done multiple 7 figures every year since.
I'm a proud buyer of Paramount since it first opened up its doors.
Yeah.
So I can honestly say it's an addiction, but the best way of looking at it is a storage of wealth, treating it as a savings account. I love that. So, Vin, sorry, I've just, full of questions here. I'll let you ask, something here before I dive in, because where he's headed towards now, and what his focus is now, outside of these smaller yet huge projects that he has going on currently, is I know the main topic today.
Okay. Well, yeah, I definitely have a few questions. As you know, I always love to focus on where people have their shifts. I think it's super important, especially I'm always interested when somebody gets through COVID with a business that usually would get destroyed during COVID. I at the time of COVID, I was a firefighter and I was building my business on the side, but luckily I was able to build it from home. And
Mhm.
so I know a lot of the stress and hardship that most people went through. I still had a job. I was still going to work every day, and most people were losing things. I was launching, and it sounds like Junior was surviving and thriving. Well, thriving to what you said in a looser term, but I'm super curious, man. Tell the listeners, what are some of those powerful shifts that helped you go through one of arguably the hardest periods for entrepreneurs and business owners, where most people were shutting their doors? You found a way to keep the lights on. What made you a one percenter?
Man, it's the mentality, right? I had one kid at the time, and then COVID. That's when I had my twins, so I went from one to three real quick, and I'm the sole provider in the household, right? So it was a no plan B. I have to make this work, whatever it takes. I started businesses, I failed businesses, and I saw that this virus, right, this COVID thing, was taking away the business that I've built from the ground up, essentially, right, a construction company. So I needed a pivot, as small business owners do, right? We're mendable, we pivot, we shift, and we make it work other ways. And all my focus went towards the precious metal side. And I literally it went. That's why I wear this all in shirt too. Whatever you do, you got to go all in. And that's where my focus was in 2020. And from there, it took off. Uh, Fortunately, the construction business is still alive today. I actually gave it to my project manager, so I passed it down to him, no charge. I'm just overseeing it for him until he's ready to fully take it on his own. But if it wasn't for two PPP loans getting forgiven, we would have been sayonara by now. And my father and my stepfather started the company in '89. So
Wow.
yeah, it was very emotional when I was on the brink of losing it. I really didn't. I don't want to let my stepdad down, because I bought it from him 10 years back because he got sick and wasn't in it for a couple months, and things start going downhill. Debt started accruing, so he offered it to me, which is when I fired my boss at that time to try my hand at business. So fortunately, it's still here, and he still collects a royalty, and here we are now in phase three of Paramount Financial.
I love
I
that,
love that.
man.
I love that he's
I,
wearing the shirt too, all in. I mean, I feel like that's just the 1%, the hustler's mindset is just looking forward and not back. And even when you're pushed in the corner, you figure it out.
I gotta wait before you jump in here, though. I gotta dive into something he said because I think it's really important for the listeners to understand. Junior, from what you were saying, it sounds like everything that has helped you with your success, and I want you to dive a little deeper and elaborate for us, but everything that's helped you with your success is you've had purpose so much bigger than yourself. With the construction industry, it was your legacy. With your future, it was also more legacy because now it involves your kids.
100%.
And one of the things that Shane and I have talked a lot about, and one of the things I heavily preach about, is like what it is to be a man in the best version of himself. And I always tell everyone being a man is about finding a sense of duty and dedication and devotion to those around you. And I truly believe from hearing your story, that's one of the bigger reasons you survived. Can you just give a little more insight into like where do you get that sense of duty? Why do you have it? I mean, there's guys walking out on their kids. There's guys that don't give a shit about their parents. Like what makes you so devoted?
Another good question. So my dad actually left when I was about 5 years old. So essentially, I grew up without one, and
Mm.
the last thing I want to do is leave my children. So it's one of those. Your why is extremely important. You got to be purpose driven, right? Just like you said, if all you're in this for is the money, if all you're chasing is money, it's going to keep running, right? But when you're fulfilling a sense of purpose, it takes you that much further. I don't work for money anymore. The money just comes. I work for helping people. So the more people you help, naturally, money flows, right? When that attracts money. But to answer your question, yeah, you got to have a purpose in life, and my family is my purpose. So, which is why I'm here.
I love it. I love it, dude. That's beautiful.
I don't even know how we're going to top this segment and going into the next one too. Like that was just amazing right there, because this is exactly for the last little over a year what we talk about is, and as far as like the 1% and to be a man and to have a successful being success driven or a purpose driven compared to finance driven, like you're living and breathing exactly what we're trying to preach to our listeners. So it's just refreshing to hear it from somebody else besides Vin and I saying the same thing week after week and just in a different fashion. So
You have to, because I get right now I'm in the job of mentoring people, as you know, right? We're going to get into that, but a lot of people that come to me, hey man, can you mentor me in my business? I turn down a lot of people because I first want to know what their why is, right? So if you tell me what your why is and it's money, you want to chase that bag, I'm not the guy for you, right? I can show you how to build a business. I've done it. I could show you how to grow, I'm pretty decent on social media. I can show you that side. I'm a little bit on the old school side of things, as Shane says, but I'm working on it. I'm working on AI and modernizing myself here, but old school still works, right? And so I always tell them, you need to have a why. I don't care what it is. You don't have to have kids to have a purpose. Your why can be your mom. I want to retire my mother. That's a great purpose.
Yeah.
You should chase that. So build a business on chasing the fact that you want to retire your mother, and I promise you the money will follow. Money is too easy to make, man. It's out there. That's the easiest thing in the world to make. You have to attract it. That's the difference.
That's
yeah, and
that is all right. You want to go or shall I go?
go ahead, Vin, because I could talk to Junior all day long.
Yeah, you already get him all day, Junior. This is me and you time now. Shane, go away. So
This Italian thing now? It's Italian thing?
hey, yeah, forget about it. So no, but I really love what you're saying, because I think one of the biggest things that people don't realize is like you needed somebody when you were a kid. Everybody does, right? And maybe you always look up to somebody and you never get to meet them or understand who they are or how they did what they did. But I believe when you get older, part of what we're always trying to do is to some degree become the versions of ourselves that we might have needed when we were younger. And I don't know if I shared that on a previous podcast or even with you, Shane. Like I was always in therapy when I was younger because I was heavily bullied and it never helped me. So a big part of why I created this unique hybrid of coaching and therapy is because as I started getting into all of this, I realized like, damn, this is what I needed when I was younger. And then you start finding ways to bring it more to the world. And it sounds like I don't know your full story, but it sounds like you had a little bit of that within you too, is you've realized some things you really could have used when you were younger. And now you're just impact and value driven. And when you are impact and value driven, you don't seek money, to your point. You attract it, but you attract it because you're become valuable by trying to provide value. And so I think that's really important. Like, who were you seeking when you were younger that you became now? Like, who's this version of Junior that you needed when you were a kid?
Man, I'm still chasing my higher self, man. He's still out there, but progression is everything, right? Another piece of my story that you guys don't know about is so up until the age of 26, I was working in the auto parts industry, and this is a part of my drive today. So that's why I'm telling this story. But I was in the automotive industry from high school all the way to 26. Auto parts, O'Reilly Auto Parts, right? Was store manager at the time, on my way to become district. I probably would have been regional by now. Thank God I didn't stay. Um, but at 26, one of my really, really good repeat clients came up to me and she said, Junior, she said, you're a really, really nice kid. It's just a shame with all those tattoos, you'll never amount to anything more than retail. So that kind of hit me pretty hard, right? I got tattoos on my hands, my legs, my arms. And I said, okay. So that hit me hard. There was a couple sleepless nights. And a year later, I went ahead and I fired my boss. And I told him I'm going to try my hand at business, which was my stepdad's construction company at the time. It all came to play at the right time. He got sick. He was out of the business. He offered it to me. I said no initially. And then I thought about what that client said. And then when I gave my 2 weeks notice, my district manager looked me in the face and he said, "Are you sure you want to do this, Junior? You know, I tried business back in the day. I came back. You'll be back in 2 years or less, I promise. You sure you want to start over?" And I looked at him. I said, "I won't be back." Here we are 12 years later. So that's another piece of I always got that chip on my shoulder. Even today, as 38 years old, I use what both of them said, and that kind of drives my motivation as well.
That's the mindset and mentality you and I share. Is you'll never amount to anything. Is there's always going to be haters and doubters, and I think I'm with you. I grew up without a dad as well, and now I try to be the best father that I can. The last previous episode that we had, his answer for 1% life was the fact that he became an entrepreneur and he now has his fifth kid and 2 decades of kids. His oldest is 18 or 19 and his youngest one is on the way. His other one is 4. And he says, my 1% life is for my kids. It's nice to turn off my phone and go play Legos with my kids, right? It's something that you and I didn't have that we can, kind of use. And I feel like that chip on our shoulder strives us to be better for our kids. I love that. I love that story. I want to shift into the mental because I know Vin's going to have a field day with that story here about as far as him being a therapist, life coach, mental coach, business coach. I mean, his accolades are everywhere at this point. But not only are you coaching other people about wealth strategy, you also have a big team of how they can accomplish this themselves. Can you speak a little bit more about this?
Yeah, so I'm in the middle of building a financial services brokerage. I'm a life health agent currently working on getting my securities license, hopefully by the end of next year. But I've got a team of about 25 agents, and right now we're in the middle of obviously mentoring all of them, making sure I give them all the tools necessary so they too can go on and build a book of business for themselves. So this is all still very new to me. I'm 10 months into the game. I've built a pretty massive team within 10 months. It's kind of unheard of, but it's just the way I am. I'm very driven. So it's all fairly new. No one's producing yet because we're just ending the building phase. So now I am teaching them everything I know, duplicating myself, right? So we're in duplication process, and 2025. You guys will hear about me. I promise you, it's going to be game time.
Yeah, and the way he was able to build this in 10 months, from my understanding, is what he's already built for himself for the medals and the timepieces on Instagram. And it's not just the, hey, look at me, look what I have, look what I've done. It's look what I can do for you. And it's these, getting your time back. And that's really the main focus. And when you build a know, like, and trust factor with your community, people are already susceptible to listening to you and hearing you out what you have to say. And coming from a place of mind where he's here to help you get better mentally and financially, it's really a win-win.
Yeah, I love that. How do you foresee, the best way to go about supporting these people's growth? And I guess another question in there is, are these people, and I'd imagine they're probably not already entrepreneurs, or they're trying to step into entrepreneurship?
So a lot of them have 9 to 5s. A couple of them are already entrepreneurs. This is their full-time gig. But my wife and I are putting support pretty much anywhere we can. She is the mental health queen. She's a life coach as well, and so she kind of helps with mindset. I'm not very good at determining that and reading people's, because you can't talk to everybody a certain way. When I'm doing my one-on-ones, when I'm doing my team calls, some people react differently to how I lead, right? So within our one-on-ones, I have to cater to their specific mentality, how they how they learn, etc. So it's all a learning process, and it's cool as their leader because I get to learn and grow as well. Like, okay, this is how person A learns. So I know that when I teach something in our in our group setting, I have to reserve some time for him to show him a different way, right? To make sure he picks up, because at the end of the day, I want everybody to succeed. So we go, man. My time is not there, but it's for the team. I'm literally putting it all on the table for them, because I do want them to succeed. They're literally my first generation, and I'm counting on them to do well, so that they can mentor the next generation.
Then I really want to point out what Junior was said was adaptability as far as his management and leadership skills here. How often do you personally see somebody who is willing to change their entire management style, leadership style to cater to every individual? I mean, we're talking about 25 people. So in my business, it's almost unheard of that you're willing to give this extra attention because somebody, is a kinesthetic learner or a visual learner, and you're willing to give them that extra attention on getting this craft, because once you've incorporated this, they're going to do the same thing for people that are under them. It's you're setting them up for success in the best way possible, and it's just not around. You don't see this. It's my way or the highway. That's usually what we talk to people, which works to a degree. But guess what? You're going to get all those types of people, all that type of mindset, very structured, very stern, very, singular focused, which that's not the most successful way of doing it. My C suite, my directing staff, they're all different individuals. It's another thing that we have in common, is that the individualism that we give to our people who are leading the teams, who are managing the company, who are trying to be a better representation of yourself when you're not there. I love that.
Yeah, you have to be pliable.
Yeah, go ahead, Junior.
No, I was going to say, you have to be pliable, right? You have to be able to cater to everyone. My main focus is, I want them to know that no matter what, they have my support, and that's important to me. So once they know and feel that they're supported, they're going to go out and they're going to do their best, right? And then they're going to emulate that into their teams as well. So it's worth my time in every way.
100%. I think that's something that's massively overlooked. One of the biggest things that is extremely important, and this is for all you listeners out there that do own businesses, is to be a leader that comes from a place, and we've already talked about this and established this, of service. You're not of service if it's my way or the highway. You're of service if you take the additional time, energy, and effort to really understand your employees. In fact, when you look at, and you guys should all check this out because I think it's worth noting, is the levels of leadership as described by John Maxwell, who's a world-renowned leadership coach. Level 3 to level 4 is the most difficult transition that most entrepreneurs do not make. And it's also the most important for scaling a business, because level 3 is your producer. And that's where it's like my way or the highway, because I know what works, I do it one way, and so will you. Level 4 is the people development side, where now, as Junior was talking about, you're replicating yourself. But the only way you could replicate yourself is if you actually understand how people learn, because not everybody's going to learn the same way. And so there's so many stories of world-renowned leaders that do things like, I forget the name of the guy, but he would have an index card or a Rolodex on his desk of every single employee in the company. And he would have a conversation with anybody, and he would write down one thing he remembers about them. And then when he's knowing he might go talk to them or whatever, and he'll bring that up, or he'll just study it on a regular day when he's got some time. And he knew at least one or two things about every employee at his company. I think he had 500 employees or something at the time. So it really just goes to show, if you have a heart of service, you could always lead from that place.
Man, I need to start doing that. I have that around that many employees, and I don't know half of them. So for my employees that are watching this right now, I will do a better job in getting that to go in there. So thank you for putting me on blast, by the way, Ben.
Yeah, no, no worries. That's why I'm the coach.
I feel like I need to hire Vin and Junior's wife to kind of help this whole situation out here, as far as to properly train. Yeah, I feel like you kind of get lost in translation here. My general focus has always been on C-suite and directors and management, because those are the type of people that are going to undersee those 400 or 500 people. But I was thinking about getting into the Great American Bagel at one point, And the franchise owner, who's in Chicago, which is their main location, he's the CEO, and he knows every single owner, assistant manager, employee at all 128 locations. It was exactly what you said. And he's older and he's still very hands on. And we're talking about a billionaire at this point who is still working a regular 8 to 5, or I'm sure a lot longer than that. But he could tell you who's working that location, the name and phone number of that person. It was unbelievable. The wits on this guy. Anyways, it's something that's not around anymore. And I think it's a dying breed. So I like that. I'm going to write that down now.
That's my mentor as well. My mentor in this current business, John Cordero. He's the founder of this accountability group, All In. Same way, man. He's got about almost 500 licenses. Knows them all by name, right? Everywhere he goes, he remembers everybody. He's just that guy, and you don't find people like that anymore who really care. So shout out to Cordero.
Love that. So Shane, you had brought up something else that Junior does. Actually, I think you had one or two more things, right? Why don't we make sure that we bring in those other additional things before we start winding down the podcast for today. So what else is he doing?
As I guess we can start talking about, I personally purchase my watches. I'm a Rolex guy, and I blame Junior for that one as well. Just like my first piece, I got a Datejust. It was all they could afford. The business was doing well enough, and my CPA said, "Hey, you know what? You can corporate gift that, and it's a write-off." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I was like, "Man, I don't know anything about Rolexes," and so I reached out to a guy who I saw posting Rolexes, and I asked him questions, and probably less than 24 hours later, I bought a watch from him. But this is it. This type of game you have to build trust, because that's really what it comes down to. There's a lot of fake crap out there, and you just don't know what you're going to get unless you're buying from somebody that is 100% loyal, trustworthy. And I think that's really what it comes down to. And Junior is that guy. So that was more of, I guess, just a regular comment, more than a general question here. But yeah, his collection is unbelievable for Rolexes, and I feel like he sells them almost as soon as he gets them.
Yeah, they don't stay around too long. That's for sure.
I'll be sure to get my first one from Junior then, because Shane's holding all of them.
Be careful. Right. As soon as you start messaging him and you see pictures, you go, "Ooh!" You have shiny object syndrome for your first one, and then it's just like a tattoo. And once you get the first one, it goes down from there. Yeah, and then your whole body is just covered in tattoos. Yeah, we all understand that.
Yes, once you start, you can't stop.
Yep,
that's it. I love it, man. Well, and you mentioned that you're also. What are you doing with cars? I used to be really big in the car world because I used to have I got the brand new style of the Camaro SS when it was. Like they just changed the body style. I live in Staten Island. I was the first one here to have that body style because they didn't even have them. They freaking were back ordered. So I got one from deep in Jersey. I pulled up to the car meets with it, and people were like, "Damn, what's that?" I'm like, "New Camaro, bitches." And
nice.
Car races, street meets, all that good stuff. I always had such a great time. And obviously, then I became a dad. I got a Jeep Wrangler and all that crap. So tell me what you're up to so I can live vicariously through you.
Yeah, man. So I grew up in the auto industry, obviously, right? So big car guy. I've always built my own cars. I was really into the Honda scene back in the day. I grew up in the Bay Area, so
my mortal enemies.
Civic hatchbacks and LSV tech swaps, and then I got into the muscle car game, and I just finished building my car at a 70 Camaro. So she just came home a couple weeks ago, 1970 RS Camaro. And supercars next.
Nice. I love it. What's her name?
My Camaro, Old Betsy.
Nice.
Old Betsy.
You gotta give the muscle cars a powerful woman's name. My Camaro was Roxanne.
Roxanne is a nice name.
Yeah.
Reminds me of the police. As soon as I saw Old Betsy on the gram, I slid in his DMs. I said, "So how much?" It's nothing I could afford, nor is he not selling. But hopefully one day, I'll be one of the contenders here for if he does end up selling old Betsy there.
Yeah,
You
for
just got to
sure.
give him back his Rolexes and his medal, and you could have old Betsy.
Well, Betsy's not for sale right now. That's the problem. Plus, we already have a couple of cars. I think my wife's gonna be like, "Where are we putting this?" Yeah, I'll be like, "We'll
Well,
figure."
find a place.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
They
I'm
make
on.
nice car stackers.
Yeah. That'll look weird in my house. Well, to be honest, I feel like this podcast we can kind of go on and on, and just kind of dig into your life here. Is there? I think the big question here, and we ask this a lot, is as far as the 1%. What does the 1% mean to you? We'll just keep it loose and fun like that.
Owning my time, right? So time ownership to me is 1%. Anybody can go start a business, but it doesn't mean you own your time, right? If you have the freedom to kind of do what you want, when you want, how you want, and your bills are still getting paid, and you're living a life that you like and is fulfilled, that right there is the 1%. You own your time at that point, right? And that's what I'm working towards. Yeah.
Time's the most valuable commodity that we have on this planet. So I love that. It's a great answer.
Maybe that's why people pay so much for Rolexes, because it has the time component to
Oh
it.
God.
So
Yeah.
people pay a lot for well, it depends on the person, right? You got the people that just want to showboat, right? And you have those who just want to kind of preserve their dollars. Like I preserve, this is all gold as an example. So this is just preserving 40 grand for me. But it's just to show people that, hey, my time is valuable, right? It's not for me. I could wear an Apple Watch and still tell time. I would never wear an Apple Watch. But yeah, it's just to show people that your time is valuable, right?
What about the guy who doesn't wear his watches and only buys them for write-offs and has only wore his Rolexes maybe 10 times? Is there a category for that guy?
You need to enjoy your pieces, man.
I see them right here. It's just I don't like showboating. I don't like flashing it around, but occasionally.
That's your intentions aren't there, so you won't put that out into the universe like that either, right?
It's also an insane amount of money to have on your wrist, and I live in Vegas where it's just not needed. But like I said, occasionally on date night or hanging out with the guys, wear the date chest, I guess.
You can just send one up to me if you really feel that way about it. I'm just saying, I'll wear it.
You and your SS Camaro back in the
Isn't Nevada LTC?
LTC license to carry, open carry? Yeah, I actually have a concealed carry.
You can wear all your pieces.
Yeah,
I do wear all my
time.
pieces, but not those pieces.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Now
it's
you-
actually open carry too. It's a stand your ground state, and it's very shoot first, ask questions later. Just kidding. It is like that though.
That's why I love Texas.
Yeah, it's the old west out here, man. Yeah.
it's not. Listen, it's. I will say one thing about these here Apple Watches.
Well, you mean that you got to replace
I know
them?
my calories.
What were you about to say? That you got to replace them every 12 months?
First off, I had this thing for I think it's been 3 or 4 years now. And secondly, Rolex might be nice, and damn right it is, but it doesn't tell you your calories or the weather or let you answer emails or text messages.
Who cares about all that?
I do. I'm a practical man.
and are you calorie counting? What are you,
Yeah.
a rich white woman on a diet?
I try to hit my goals every day. I'm on top of it. I know I'm only halfway to my goal right now. I gotta start doing jumping jacks or I'm gonna miss it.
See, that's a priority, which health should be one of the biggest priorities in anybody's life, because if you take care of your health and you take care of your fitness, everything else will come a lot naturally and easier. So I can't hate you for that.
Health is the greatest wealth.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
Oh man, I love it.
Well, Junior, thank you so much for jumping on with me and Vin here. We really appreciate you and appreciate the time you've given us here. Wish you nothing but success. All in. That is the mantra. That's the mentality to have. And we're definitely going to have you on for another episode where we're going to dive in deeper and hopefully convert Vin into the Rolex one. And Vin's got something to say.
We didn't let the viewers know where they could find Junior, or how they could get involved, or how they could get some gold. No, you don't thank the person before you let them. Anyway, Junior, please tell the people that could be interested in getting gold or cars or watches or insurance, or man, just Junior is the guy to know. So where can people connect with you?
Well, hey, I appreciate both y'all's time for having me. First off, this was my very first podcast, so thank you for popping my cherry there. Really, you can find me. My one-stop shop is Instagram, Paramount_Timepieces. So from there, I still manage my own account, so you're talking to me directly, and my link tree will take you kind of anywhere you want with regards to everything I do.
You'll
Awesome.
find me on there as a follower for the last couple of years.
Yeah, he's one of
just
the
joined.
first. Shane's one of the first.
I think when I followed, I think it was 3.5 years ago, around there is when I actually heard about you, and then it was before the timepieces was added, and I think you were at 4,000 followers already. Where is it at now? Just because it's all organic.
Yeah, I think we're close to 14,000.
We're gonna figure something like that out for the 1% podcast. Come on, guys, give us a like, give us a share, give us a comment, give us a follow. Do the same thing for Junior.
Subscribe.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely putting this on my page too. So most definitely.
I love it.
All
right, Vin, you do the exits all the time, so we'll continue that streak here.
All right. Well, as always, everyone, thanks so much for joining us on another episode of the 1% Podcast. I'm your host, Vin, and
I'm Shane. Bye, guys.